from the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis.
From the VON Newsline, this is the VON Major Newscast.
Good evening, I am Tashan Tyson in with your VON Major News package for today, Monday, 2nd March 2020. In our lead stories, nationally, police investigating circumstances surrounding body discovered here on Nevis, and Nevis unable to secure fourth title win at LIDC debating competition. Regionally, Caribbean on high alert for deadly COVID-19. Internationally, Pete Buttigieg drops out of Democratic race for White House. And in sports, England beat West Indies to reach semis after Natalie Siver hits 57. We'll have the details of these and other stories after this message.
Another look.
Different from how you've seen it before.
Another look.
Takes an in-depth look into business, politics, science, technology, religion, and more.
Another look.
Featuring documentaries from the BBC, regional features, and local ones too.
Another look.
Every Monday at 3 p.m. on the Eastern Caribbean's powerhouse.
Wow.
Welcome back. Another national news in detail. In police news, police are investigating the circumstances surrounding the death of a young man whose body was found lying along the roadside in Nugent Heights, Nevis. According to a police press release, lawmen received the report on Sunday morning, March 1st at about 8:30 a.m. The district medical doctor arrived at the scene and pronounced the man dead, which had visible signs of injury. The deceased has since been identified as 20-year-old Jevon Brandy of Brown Hill. Members of the crime scene unit visited and processed the scene. Investigations are ongoing. An autopsy to determine the exact cause of death has been scheduled. Students of the Nevis Sixth Form College participated in the 48th Leeward Islands Debating Competition, LIDC. The competition began on Thursday, 27th February, with an opening ceremony. Nevis' debaters went up against host country and Montserrat, Anguilla St. Kitts, St. Martin, and Antigua and Barbuda. The event ended on Sunday, March 1st. There were a total of 5 debates throughout the 4-day period. Nevis made their first debate appearance on Saturday, February 29th. Nevis faced Anguilla on the final night. Here is an excerpt from Sunday night's event.
Out of a total of 780 points, we found, and when we did all our additions, the proposition got 559, proposition 559, and the opposition 610. So I can declare Team Anguilla the winner of the debate and of the 48th George Irish debating competition.
Nevis won the competition for the past 3 years and is tied with Antigua and Barbuda and St. Kitts for the most Leeward Islands debating titles, which stands at 10. The LIDC competition was founded on Montserrat in 1972 by the late Dr. George Irish. In the next 3 days, the island of Nevis will see a by-election which will afford residents, particularly the people of St. Thomas's Parish, Nevis 5, the opportunity to choose a representative in the Nevis Island Assembly. The by-election is slated for Thursday, March 5th. The candidates for the by-election were nominated last Tuesday, February 25th, and they are Mrs. Cleona Stapleton Simmons of the Nevis Reformation Party NRP, whose symbol is the bottle, and Mr. Keith Scarborough of the Concerned Citizens Movement, CCM, whose symbol is the hammer. Polls will open at 7 a.m. on voting day and close at 6 p.m. Any and all persons in line in the precinct of the polling station at 6 p.m. will be allowed to vote. Anyone who comes in a line after 6 p.m. will not be allowed to vote. Voting will take place at the Cotton Ground Community Center, the Jessops Community Center, and the Nevis Performing Arts Center, NEPAC. Mrs. Cheryl Nisbet is the returning officer for this exercise. Provision has been made for persons who have lost or misplaced their national identification cards. St. Kitts and Nevis' Supervisor of Election is Mr. Elvin Bailey.
Persons whose national identification cards have expired, persons who have misplaced or lost cards, once properly registered, will be allowed to vote on presentation of any other form of government-issued picture identification. The presiding officers and agents of the candidates will also be equipped with picture lists to aid in identification of voters. Presiding officers, polling clerks, and tally clerks will be appointed and are mandated to undertake their assigned tasks without partiality, fear, or favor. The presiding officers will be responsible for the maintenance of order at the polling stations. Voters are asked to pay special attention to the instructions of the electoral officers.
Supervisor of Elections, Mr. Elvin Bailey. A total of 1,533 persons are eligible to vote in this by-election in the constituency. This is 152 more than the 1,381 persons who voted in 2017 Nevis Island Assembly elections in that constituency. As residents and citizens of Nevis, particularly residents of St. Thomas's Parish, gear up for the by-election, community activist Mr. Samuel Williams has expressed his views regarding that event. The by-election is slated for Thursday, March 5th. The candidates vying for the St. Thomas's Parish seat are Mrs. Cleone Stapleton Simmons of the Nevis Reformation Party NRP, whose symbol is the bottle, and Mr. Keith Scarborough of the Concerned Citizens Movement CCM, whose symbol is the hammer. Community activist is Mr. Samuel Williams.
One should be able to exercise their franchise and vote for a party in respect of what good potentials or perspectives that party might have for the country. One should not support an individual candidate because of that individual or what the particular gain from that individual might be. In respect of this, one should vote for a political party because of the positive issues. We, the electorate, must give true allegiance to our country with sincerity, integrity, and solidarity.
Community activist is Mr. Samuel Williams. St. Kitts Plant Quarantine Unit in the Department of Agriculture is actively searching for 2 ways to identify and eradicate various pests that attack and destroy crops within the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis as part of its crop protective measures. Director of the Department of Agriculture, Melvin James, made this announcement on February 26th. The plant quarantine unit goes around the island, placing traps with baits in them. These baits are put at the ports of entry and even out in the field, he said. Some of the pests that the plant quarantine unit is actively searching for include the Mediterranean fruit fly, the carambola fruit fly, and the Tuta absoluta. Mr. James said that so far, none of these pests have been found within the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Experimenting with the production of the Canadian red apple in St. Kitts is continuing, as the Plant Propagation Unit of the St. Kitts Department of Agriculture has so far cultivated a Canadian red apple tree for a year. That's according to Director of Agriculture Melvin James. He made the announcement at a recently held Agriculture's annual review on February 26th. The experiment with growing the Canadian red apple tree began in May 2019. The tree was planted in the Department of Agriculture's Needsmouth farm. It is expected to bear fruit in 5 years. The reason behind experimenting with Canadian red apples is that it is the department's aim of seeing temperate crops grow in the tropical climate of St. Kitts and Nevis. Temperate zones are places such as Europe, Northern Asia, and North and Central America. Tropics refer to places near the equator such as the Caribbean, Congo, Uganda, Kenya, Somalia, and Indonesia. And finally, the St. Christopher National Trust, with the sponsorship from the St. Kitts Nevis Anguilla National Bank, hosted a consultation on the development of Fort Charles. Fort Charles is one of the historical sites that has been vested in the National Trust. The consultation, which took place on February 28th at Jay's Place in Sandy Point, brought together stakeholders, experts, partners, and community groups to share their ideas and suggestions on how the Trust can develop the historical site to enhance not only the surrounding communities but the entire nation. Speaking at the opening of the event, Vice President of the St. Christopher National Trust, Alfonso Ogaro, stated that it was imperative to gather insights from the participants. Assistant Secretary in the Ministry of Tourism, Daniel Taylor Williams, stated that the Ministry of Tourism recognizes the importance of a site like Charles Fort and what an integral part it would play in the tourism product development. Fort Charles, also called Cleverly Point Fort, is a historic British colonial fort established 1670, site in Sandy Point, St. Kitts. Fort Charles was named after King Charles II. It was a military post from at least 1666, and by 1689 it was rebuilt by English Governor Thomas Hill. The fort was abandoned in 1854. The fort is now in ruins, completely abandoned and overgrown with tropical vegetation. That's the national news segment. You can visit our website at www.vonradio.com or check us out on Facebook at Von Radio or our Von Radio YouTube channel for these and other stories. News from across the region is next.
We know you have your personal as well as your business needs, and we're here to help. Our knowledgeable staff will work with you to help you achieve the financial success that you or your company needs in a competitive market. We offer solutions to make your banking experience easier, like our savings and checking accounts. Be sure to ask about our youth savers accounts and our Bank of Nevis Go Club. We offer a wide range of personal loans, including mortgage, land, student, auto, and consumer loans. Have access to your funds instantly with our BeOnline internet banking and our debit and credit cards. We make international banking and investing easy. How's your business? Give it the leverage it really needs by letting the Bank of Nevis assist you with all the necessary funding for all your business expenses. It's that easy. What are you waiting for? The Bank of Nevis Limited, improving the quality of life.
Like us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/The Bank of Nevis.
Welcome back. Another regional news in detail. The Caribbean is on high alert for the deadly COVID-19 after the first case of the new coronavirus was confirmed in Latin America. On February 26, the Ministry of Health of Brazil confirmed the country's first case of COVID-19. The patient is a 61-year-old man who recently returned from Italy, where an outbreak of the virus has been ongoing since last week. The latest diagnosis comes during the height of Brazil's week-long carnival, which attracts hundreds of thousands of tourists from around the world. St. Lucian NewsOnline.com says. In a statement on Wednesday, the Pan American Health Organization, PAHO, called on countries to intensify their plans to prepare and respond to COVID-19, given the appearance of cases of new coronavirus disease in the region of the Americas. PAHO noted in the event of an outbreak in Latin America and the Caribbean, the impact on health services may be significant, with the possibility that health services may become overwhelmed, including a high demand for specialized hospital services such as intensive care. In more regional news, a Tobagan who was hospitalized after developing a fever days after returning from China has tested negative for the new coronavirus. The confirmation from the Tobago House of Assembly's Division of Health, Wellness and Family Development came after rumors began circulating on social media that COVID-19 had reached the Twin Island Republic's shores. As of today, there are 3,087 deaths and 90,302 cases. 3 cases of COVID-19 were confirmed as positive in the Northern Islands by the Institut Pasteur Laboratory of Guadeloupe, which is conducting the test. The case involves a resident of St. Barthélemy and his visiting relatives. Regional Health Authority ARS confirmed in a press release Sunday. The St. Barthélemy resident is currently confined to his home and on daily surveillance. His state of health is not cause for concern. His parents are in isolation in St. Martin's Louis Constant Fermin Hospital and are being closely monitored. Their state of health is not worrying. Samples from people who have been in contact with them are being analyzed or taken. There are, moreover, 2 other possible cases with a couple of residents of St. Martin who have returned from holidays in the OAS. Their test samples are currently being processed. BVI's Premier, Andrew Foy, has sought to dispel public fears over the first suspected case of the novel coronavirus in the British Virgin Islands. Addressing the public during an impromptu press conference at the House of Assembly on Thursday, February 27th, the Premier said, "First of all, we do not have a confirmed case of the coronavirus in the BVI. The individual is under quarantine at their home," Foy stated. He said initial tests were conducted and more samples have been sent to Trinidad for further testing. Meanwhile, a regional protocol establishing minimum standards for dealing with the new coronavirus was agreed to by CARICOM heads of government and ministers of health at a special emergency meeting in Barbados on Sunday. CARICOM stressed that the protocol is critical to avoid an outbreak of panic and fear in the region. The protocol defines rules and responsibilities of all parties and seeks to ensure that there is effective communications between CARICOM governments and the cruise line industry with respect to decisions so that there would be a common understanding. Screening procedures and protocols for prevention, surveillance and response are integral to the industry operations, they noted. Out of Dominica. A total of 835 serious crimes were reported in the country for 2019, and according to Police Chief Daniel Carbon, this was slightly lower than the figure of 906, which was reported in 2018. Carbon said during a recently held press conference that in terms of the minor crimes, 3,501 offenses were reported in 2019, 5 minor offenses in 2018, 3,856 minor crimes were reported to the police, and in 2019, 3,501 minor offenses were reported to the police and realized a reduction by 355 minor crimes in 2019, he noted. He said 10 murders were reported in 2019 compared to 11 in 2018. DominicanNewsOnline.com quoted him as saying, "I have a concern with the number of murders that are being committed, as we all know one murder is one too many." Mr. Carbon noted, however, that out of the 10 murders that were reported in 2019, 6 were gun-related and 8 were detected. There were also 20 firearm offenses in 2019, according to Carbon, an increase from the 16 which were reported in 2018. And finally, the government of Guyana declared Monday, March 2nd, a public holiday, the day designated for the holding of general and regional elections across the country. Vice President and Minister of Public Security Kamraj Ramjatan made the declaration under the Public Holidays Act. According to Ramjatan, schools and public buildings can be effectively used as polling places ahead of the election. The Guyana Elections Commission, GECOM, has published the official list of electors with 660,998 names. That's it for the regional stories. Stay with us for news from around the world. Welcome back to our international news in detail. Pete Buttigieg, the former Indiana mayor who made an ambitious run for president, has announced he is ending his campaign for the White House. The 38-year-old became the first openly gay presidential candidate from a major party when he announced he was running for the Democratic nomination. But despite a successful start, his campaign lost momentum in recent weeks. His decision to drop out comes ahead of a key day on Tuesday in the Democratic race to take on Trump. Here is Mr. Buttigieg.
So we must recognize that at this point in the race, the best way to keep faith with those goals and ideals is to step aside and help bring our party and our country together. I am making the difficult decision to suspend my campaign for the presidency. I will no longer seek to be the 2020 Democratic nominee for president, but I will do everything in my power to ensure that we have a new Democratic president come January.
Gunmen have killed dozens of people in attacks on several remote villages in northwest Nigeria. The violence is not believed to be linked to Islamist militants. More in this BBC report.
Residents of the remote villages in Kaduna State say the attackers arrived on foot in large numbers, shooting people and burning down their homes on Sunday. Residents and the federal member of parliament representing the area told the BBC that about 50 people were killed and many others were injured. These attacks are the latest indication of widespread insecurity in the country. The Nigerian government is under increasing pressure to address the security challenges, including the Boko Haram insurgency and rampant kidnappings for ransom by armed gangs.
4 more people have died in the coronavirus outbreak in Washington state, bringing the total fatalities there to 6. These are the only deaths due to COVID-19 on the U.S. soil. The northwestern state declared a state of emergency over the weekend. 5 of the deaths occurred in King County, where Seattle is the main city. There are now 18 confirmed cases in the region, where there are growing fears it may spread further. Researchers who studied the first Washington deaths had said the virus may have been spreading for weeks and suggested that up to 1,500 people may have been infected. Kathy Lofin, Washington State's health officer, said cases were confined to 2 counties, King and Snohomish, but that it was possible it was spreading elsewhere. Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar will abandon her candidacy for the 2020 Democratic presidential nomination. Senator Klobuchar came in a distant 6th place in Saturday's South Carolina primary. Ms. Klobuchar, 59, will join Joe Biden at his Dallas, Texas rally tonight to endorse the former vice president, U.S. media report. Despite some strong debate, performances, and a surprise surge in the early primary voting state of New Hampshire, Ms. Klobuchar failed to gain broader traction. And finally, Judy Shineman, one of the U.S. daytime TV's biggest stars, has revealed her long-running CBS show Judge Judy will end next year after 25 seasons. In an interview with Ellen DeGeneres to be aired on Monday, the 77-year-old said she would launch a new show on another unnamed network in 2022. CBS has yet to comment on the multiple Emmy winner's departure. According to Shineman, CBS is seeking to utilize repeats of Judge Judy instead of commissioning further series. Shineman said her desire to continue working led her to the decision to launch a new show titled Judy Justice, but that will not air on CBS. She said the new show would be going elsewhere while reruns of her old shows go into syndication. That brings us to the end of our news segments. The latest in sports is next.
You worked hard to acquire your very first home, your dream car, your business, your personal property. The TDC Insurance Company knows how much they mean to you and understand the importance of protecting your investment. We offer the best solutions with affordable rates, a straightforward process, and a range of options to discount your overall premium. At TDC Insurance Company, we take good care of you, guaranteeing you peace of mind. Give us a call at 465-2845 or 469-5430 or visit our website at www.tdcinsurance.com.
Welcome back. Another sports in detail. In women's cricket, England is into the Women's T20 World Cup semi-finals after defeating the West Indies in their final group game in Sydney. Natalie Silver once again started with the bat, making 57 from 56 balls, as England posted 143 for 5 from their 20 overs. In response, West Indies lost 3 wickets for 1 run and had injured captain Stephanie Taylor, taking off on a stretcher as they slumped to 42 for 4. Leanne Kirby hit 20 from 15 balls and was dropped twice to give West Indies some hope, but they could only reach 97 for 9, with Taylor unable to return to the crease despite 17 balls remaining. Scores were England 143 runs for 5 in 20 overs, Silver 57 runs via 29 runs, West Indies 97 runs for 9 all out in 17.1 overs, Kirby 20 runs, Ecclestone 3 for 7, Glenn 2 for 16, England won by 46 runs. In more cricket, Fabian Allen recovered from a shoulder injury, then smashed 37 runs off 15 balls and came close to being the hero for West Indies in the third and final one-day international against Sri Lanka on Sunday night. However, in the end, West Indies lost the match. The scores were Sri Lanka 307 all out of 50 overs. West Indies 301 runs for 9 of 50 overs. Still in cricket, India secured the top spot in Group A of the Women's T20 World Cup with a dominant win over Sri Lanka in Melbourne. Sri Lanka could only post 113 runs for 9 after captain Shamari Attapattu fell for 33, with spinner Radha Yadav claiming 4 for 23. India's 16-year-old opener Shafali Verma smashed 47 of 34 balls in reply before she was run out. Jemima Rodriguez and DP Sharma both made 50 not out to see India to 116 runs for 3 with 32 balls to spare. Sri Lanka 113 runs for 9 in 20 overs. India 116 runs for 3 in 14.4 overs. India won by 7 wickets. In more cricket, Haley Jensen and Leigh Kasperek took 3 wickets apiece as New Zealand produced a tremendous comeback to down Bangladesh at the ICC Women's T20 World Cup. New Zealand 91 all out 80 in 18.2 overs. Bangladesh 74 all out in 19.5 overs. New Zealand beat Bangladesh by 17 runs. In local sports, the Ever Walters Primary School held its sports meet on Friday, February 28th at the Mondo track here in Nevis. The final scores were Red House 219 points, Green House 193 points, and Gold House 190 points. And that's it for sports. The General Weather Report is next. Welcome back, and now the local weather forecast for St. Kitts and Nevis. Weather tonight will be fair to partly cloudy with a 20% or slight chance of a brief shower. Weather tomorrow will be sunny to partly sunny with a 20% or slight chance of a brief shower. Winds are east to northeast at 6 to 14 knots or 11 to 26 kilometers per hour with lighter spells in some places overnight. Seas are 1 to 1.5 meters or 3 to 5 feet. Sunrise tomorrow will be at 6:28 a.m. And that's a wrap up the major news package for today, Monday, March 2nd, 2020. Before we go, let's take a look at the headlines once again. Nationally, police investigating circumstances surrounding body discovered here on Nevis, and Nevis unable to secure 4th title win at LIDC debating competition. Regionally, Caribbean on high alert for deadly COVID-19. Internationally, Pete Buttigieg drops out of Democratic race for White House. And in sports, England beat West Indies to reach semis after Natalie Silver hits 57. On behalf of the rest of the news team, I am Tashan Tyson, wishing you a pleasant evening.